See, the main challenge is our dental faculty, they are all busy consultants. Some of the most esteemed consultants of the Hyderabad and other cities. But I understood every dental consultant, orthodontist, endodontist, periodontist, anybody, one day in the week they get a break, and on Sunday also they get the break. So my job is to bring the best teachers for you in all the dental subjects, but they are giving time one on one day, one particular day. So on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, I can hijack Dr. Deepthi Razdan and bring you to teach you orthodontics. And on Thursday and Sunday, I can hijack Dr. Shyam Prasad Reddy sir to teach you oral pathology. And that's the reason what happens is, ideally Monday to Friday, if it is the same subject, that is a different story. But one day, 3 days in a week, 2 days in a week, you need to combine 2-3 subjects and finish. Just you need to bear with that. Because the live classes consultants are spread like that. So we really can't help. Then for the offline students, another problem is, some consultants can't come to Kukatpalli. They can only come to Amirpet. Some can only come to Kukatpalli, they can't, some can only come here like that. So either we'll have class here in Amirpet or whether it is in Kukatpalli. One of the two locations, don't worry. I won't make you entire Hyderabad go around for the sake of teachers, right? Whereas for the online students, no problem. Sit in the home, stretch your legs, have a coffee, ask IPL match to be started. You have one lecture going here, one IPL match going there, another side Facebook. You can comfortably enjoy the class as the way you please. So that's one advantage of the online. But especially with traffic jams, online is safer. But without students, how can teachers can teach? So we are more happy to find more offline students. So doctor, which is not a side effect of aspirin. It won't cause any increased platelet aggregation. Rather, methemoglobinemia is a side effect of paracetamol, long-term usage, not with aspirin. Whereas it leads to peptic ulceration, true statement. It leads to, in children, Reye's syndrome. Okay, let's talk what is Reye's syndrome. A small child had hope that offline message is gone for our online students. Yeah. A child has fever and a rash forming illness. To treat that fever, you have given aspirin. Then after giving aspirin, within a short time, patient developed acute liver failure and fulminant hepatic encephalopathy. He has gone into a comatose state with encephalopathy. That is called Reye's syndrome. So Reye's syndrome is an unfortunate aspirin-induced fulminant hepatic failure in a febrile child who had a rash-forming illness who was treated with aspirin. That's the reason any rash-forming illness with high fever is there. In a pediatric population, don't give aspirin, rather give paracetamol, very safe drug, acetaminophen. Acetaminophen doesn't lead to Reye's syndrome. That's the point you need to appreciate. What is the most important side effect of aspirin intoxication? Tinnitus. As such, somebody is sitting and buzzing the music in your ear. That is the feeling you get. Tinnitus is a typical adverse effect of the aspirin is what need to be remembered. So summarize doctor, all salicylate poisoning, hyperactivity, irritability, agitation, vertigo, delirium, hallucinations, seizures, coma, cerebral edema, anything can very much happen. Now doctor, if you increase the single dose of aspirin from 600 mg to 1 gram, what will it basically lead to? Fundamentally, aspirin has all three. What are the three things? Analgesic, antipyretic, anti-inflammatory. When you increase the dosage, anti-inflammatory action becomes predominant. That's the point you need to appreciate. If you use aspirin 300 milligrams, then what do you see? All these effects are seen. Bleeding time get prolonged, cyclooxygenase is inhibited, prostaglandin F2 is inhibited, but the inhibition of thromboxane A2 is there, no? That doesn't happen at a low dosage of 300 milligrams. Only when you use a high dosage of 300 milligrams, then only thromboxane A2 in the platelets get inhibited. That's the point you need to basically appreciate, doctor. Now, in this context, you need to appreciate one important point. I'll come to, okay, actually, there are two things which are produced, doctor, by the cyclooxygenase. Cyclooxygenase enzyme produces prostaglandin E2, thromboxane A2, prostaglandin I2. I2 is called prostacyclin. Now, doctor, what is the difference between thromboxane A2 and prostacyclin? You have to be very, very clear. Prostacyclin PGI2, which is a product of cyclooxygenase activity, is produced by vascular endothelium. The cyclooxygenase in the vascular endothelium produces prostaglandin I2. The cyclooxygenase in the platelets produces thromboxane A2. Why these two things? They both are the children of the same enzyme, but one child becomes police officer, other becomes the murderer, like the typical Hindi movie. Now the question comes, sir, we are giving aspirin, we are only killing the mother, cyclooxygenase. Then will her police officer son PGI2 get killed, or will his thromboxane A2 get killed, is the question. It depends upon what dosage of the aspirin you have given. But more than that, why you need to know thromboxane A2 and PGI2? They both are opposite in their action. What are the opposite actions of them? If you take thromboxane A2, it aggregates the platelets and promotes the thrombus. If you take prostaglandin I2, prostacyclin otherwise called, it deaggregates the platelets and prevents the thrombus. Right? So, if you use aspirin, you are inhibiting cyclooxygenase. Will the thromboxane A2's decrease will have, thromboxane A2 decrease will have what kind of effect? Normally thromboxane A2 lead to thrombus formation, platelet aggregation. Any decrease of that will lead to increased bleeding. Prostaglandin I2 lead to platelet deaggregation. Any decrease of that will lead to platelet formation and thrombus formation. Right? Any decrease of the prostaglandin I2. If you give aspirin, will that PGI2 decrease के वजह से क्या होता? Thrombus formation tendency will be more, और thromboxane A2 diminish होने के वजह से bleeding tendency होने का chances ज़्यादा है. That is a question. With what? By giving aspirin. You got that funda? Now you close your eyes and tell. Platelets produce thromboxane A2 or prostacyclin? Beautiful. Endothelium produces prostacyclin. Prostacyclin is aggregator or deaggregator? Deaggregator. Any diminished prostacyclin lead to aggregation and clot formation. Any diminished thromboxane A2 lead to bleeding tendency. Which will then predominate is the question. Normally when you give in low dosage, the thromboxane A2 is not inhibited. Only prostacyclin is affected, right? When you use it in high dosages of aspirin, then thromboxane A2 also get affected. So that is the fundamental difference. Okay, doctor? So that is the whole story that you need to know. Ultimately, common question asked in the entrance is, thromboxane is produced by cyclooxygenase in, fill up the blank. Thromboxane A2 is produced by cyclooxygenase in, good. And prostacyclin is produced by cyclooxygenase in endothelium. That's what you need to remember. And at low doses, what is inhibited? Endothelial. Prostacyclin is inhibited by the aspirin. Excellent, doctor, excellent. Where is aspirin contraindicated is the next important question. Whenever there is a peptic ulceration, it is contraindicated because it predisposes to that. Prolonged usage will lead to thromboxane A2 diminished thromboxane A2, and hypoprothrombemia is an important side effect of a long-term usage of aspirin, because it leads to liver injury. Because of that, prothrombin formation by the liver will diminish. What is prothrombin? Factor 2 is called prothrombin, right? So that lead to development of hypoprothrombemia is what need to be remembered. So long-term usage of the aspirin, what will it lead to? Diminished platelet adhesion is what you need to understand. Is the salicylate contraindicated in the pregnancy? What is the reason for it? Why salicylates are contraindicated in pregnancy? Is a very, very important question. Basically, if you use salicylates, of course we use aspirin in pregnancy. Why? In pregnancy there is a tendency for hypertension in pregnancy, preeclampsia. Giving aspirin through the second trimester of pregnancy diminishes the chance of developing preeclampsia in the last trimester. Hence aspirin is good. We give a low dose aspirin as a preventive measure in pregnancy to prevent the development of long-term preeclampsia. That story you know. But if you use high dose aspirin in pregnancy, what is the important side effect? It will increase perinatal mortality. It lead to bleeding, it lead to anemia, antepartum hemorrhage, postpartum hemorrhage, gestation become prolonged, and that complicates the deliveries. So they are the side effects of salicylates. Then what else? In the embryonic life, the blood in the pulmonary circulation and the blood in the aorta, they both are interconnected with ductus arteriosus. Prostaglandins maintain the patency of this ductus arteriosus in fetal circulation. If you expose such a fetus to aspirin, which inhibits platelets, what happens? Prematurely, ductus will close because prostaglandin is diminished. The closure of the ductus will lead to worsening of the fetal circulation. That is the important side effect of aspirin, high dose aspirin, which can close the ductus arteriosus prematurely, is what need to be basically remembered. Aspirin is not useful for which situation? It is not good in gout. Gout is a state of hyperuricemia. What is the story of gout, doctor? Who is your classical patient of gout? Oh, doctor, I am dying, doctor. Please help, doctor. Your patient will come to you. His big toe, in the foot, your big toe, severely inflamed. First, tarso-metatarsal junction inflammation is the characteristic clinical finding in gout. For such a patient, you open his mouth and put one tablet, within few minutes to hours, he'll say, doctor, I don't know God is there or not, you are the God. Such a wonderful pain relief is provided. What is the drug you have put in the mouth of the patient? With an acute gout, with an inflamed tarsometatarsal joint, doctor? Ibuprofen. Ibuprofen. You also have a choice of giving aspirin in that situation. Can you use? You cannot. Why? Let us talk about aspirin. Basically, we use indomethacin, naproxen, sulindac or celecoxib in order to treat this acute inflammatory pain of gout, but not aspirin. Why? Because if you look at urate, uric acid, what is the fate of uric acid in the renal tubule? Our renal tubules secrete the urate into tubular fluid so that urate goes into urine. The tubular cells secrete the urate from the blood into tubular fluid and make it lost into urine. If you give aspirin, it will inhibit this urate secretion into the urine, because it will compete with the urate and tell, no, urate, you don't bind, I will only bind, I will not let you to be secreted. So urate remains disappointed, like the elder brother is disappointed by the younger brother for playing the toy. So it remains in the blood, and that leads to hyperuricemia. Since aspirin has this urate excretion inhibiting effect, you cannot use aspirin in a patient who has got the hyperuricemia and gout. Rather, you should use ibuprofen, sulindac, naproxen, any other NSAID in order to decrease the inflammation of a acute gout, but not aspirin, is what you need to basically remember. Then, how will you basically treat a patient of gout? There is one more reason why you should not give aspirin. Gout is a state of hyperuricemia. Hyperuricemia can occur because of two reasons: overproduction of uric acid or under excretion of uric acid. Either of the two things are responsible. Suppose if the cause is not overproduction, but if you found that the guy is an under secretor, how will you treat such a gout patient's hyperuricemia? You will give a drug which will have uricose-uric effects, which will promote the uric acid secretion by the renal tubule. One such drug is called probenecid. Probenecid is a uricose-uric drug used for the treatment of gout. Giving aspirin interferes with the uricose-uric effect of probenecid. Hence, you don't give aspirin, is what you need to remember. So, how do you treat gout, doctor, in that case? We reduce the inflammation. To reduce the inflammation, you will give colchicine, not aspirin acutely. Why do you give colchicine? Colchicine binds with the mitotic spindle and it obstructs the division of the cell and it disrupts this cell division ability. Whenever you have inflammation, what is the important property of the cells? The inflammatory cells quickly divide, form more inflammatory cells and attack. You decrease that inflammatory cell multiplication by inhibiting the mitotic spindle. For that you require colchicine. Hence colchicine is used to impair the leukocytic migration, leukocytic proliferation and disrupt the inflammatory cascade. Hence you use colchicine. NSAIDs other than aspirin, naproxen, sulindac, ibuprofen, you can all use in acute arthritis. Generally we use indomethacin. We can also give a steroid. intramuscular triamcinolone. Triamcinolone is a steroid. We can give indomethacin, we give colchicine, we give steroids, we give intravenous colchicine, but not aspirin is what need to be remembered. Then after this, you look whether he is overproducer or undersecretor. If he is an overproducer of the urate, that is responsible for his gout, you basically treat him by giving allopurinol, which is the drug of choice. Now doctor, how will allopurinol diminish the uric acid production is the question. Once more, our present life is dependent on our past life according to Hindu mythology. So your understanding these concepts in pharmacology dependent on how well you studied biochemistry. No problem, right? So if you take uric acid, from where is it forming? Uric acid basically forms from the nucleotides. What are the nucleotides? Purines and pyrimidines. The purines and pyrimidines are the adenine, thymine, cytosine, uracil. You have no nucleotides. When they metabolize, when they degrade, they lead to formation of uric acid, right? How do they do that? Whenever you take the purines, they all metabolize and form hypoxanthine. Is the end product of their metabolism. Hypoxanthine converts into xanthine. Xanthine is oxidized and uric acid forms. The allopurinol which you are giving basically is a xanthine oxidase inhibitor, so that it will prevent xanthine from converting into uric acid, so that uric acid production is diminished. That is the purpose of giving. Being a, what is the enzyme it is an inhibitor? Xanthine oxidase inhibitor is the allopurinol is what need to be remembered. Then you have some drugs which will increase the secretion and excretion of the uric acid. Probenecid, sulfenpyrazone, they act on the kidney, and they basically what will they do? They inhibit the reabsorption of uric acid. Either you promote secretion or you inhibit reabsorption. So the uric acid remains in tubular fluid and see that it will go into urine. So basically probenecid, sulfenpyrazone are the inhibitors of the uric acid reabsorption and enhance the uric acid excretion. So doctor, summarize, how do you want to treat? You give allopurinol xanthine oxidase inhibitor, or you give a uricosuric drug like probenecid or sulfenpyrazone. They are the important drugs that are basically administered. Now doctor, anyway, we will once more discuss in general medicine about gout. Gout is one of the high yield topic for MDS entrance. Which herbicide produces blood dyscrasia? Indomethacin. Indomethacin, Sulindac, Etodolac. What is common to all of them? They are all acetic acid derivatives. So they typically lead to some important side effects which include neutropenia, thrombocytopenia, aplastic anemia, all these important blood dyscrasias. Then phenylbutazone, oxyphenobutazone, aminopyrin, they are all called pyrazolone derivatives. Even they are also very bad because they lead to a granulocytosis. WBC count will come down, neutropenia will occur. Then aspirin. What is the important problem with aspirin? Aspirin can lead to hemolysis in the people who have G6PD deficiency. That is the only hematological side effect of aspirin. Otherwise it does not lead to any neutropenia or any thrombocytopenia like blood dyscrasias. Now doctor, what is the safest NSAID? Basically ibuprofen is considered to be the safest NSAID. Which NSAID is known to cause water retention in precipitate CHF? Oh, now you are expert. Aspirin or even phenylbutazone, both of them. Which is the highest amount of COX-2 inhibitor activity? Basically, valdecoxib, rofecoxib, celecoxib, all are coxibs, but which is the most COX-2 inhibiting one? Lumiracoxib is the one which you need to basically remember. So, lumiracoxib is equal to etocoxib more than valdecoxib, which is equal to rofecoxib is more than celecoxib. So, that is how we need to basically remember. Now, doctor, which drug has both analgesic, antipyretic, anti-inflammatory action means most potent? It become diclofenac sodium. Yesterday we read, no? Sunday. Yesterday was Sunday? Day before yesterday was Sunday. Okay. Efficacy, potency, ED50, all those concepts we read, no? Very good. So, very good. Ravi is asking a very important question, answer. Very good. I am happy when our online students are very active and contributory. See, in a live class, you will have inhibitions to talk. There is a online virtual class, you can punch answers, you can punch your own ideas, anything you can do. While your younger sister is massaging your head, elder brother has put some strong coffee for you because you are working hard for MDS entrance. When the teacher on the screen is delivering the lecture, watching the cricket show, still you can be able to participate. That is the power of online classes. So, that's right. Ravi has given some mnemonics which will help others. That's good, doctor. So, we have put all our online students into, all our students preparing for MDS entrance into a common WhatsApp. So that we want to create a continuous MCQ review across the day so that you are up and streamlined for the preparation. Nowadays, telegrams, emails, they are all outdated after the onset of WhatsApp. Now, diclofenac is more potent than aspirin. Indomethacin is more potent, 10 to 40 times. And among the antipyretics, highest efficacy is shown by other is non-anti-inflammatory but only antipyretic analgesic group are there, no? Metimazole has the highest efficacy is what need to be remembered. Which drug has a divergent way of anti-inflammatory action? Piroxicam. Piroxicam, it can inhibit neutrophils, it can inhibit cyclooxygenase, it will also decrease rheumatoid factor production, it has an ability to affect suppressor T cells. So, pleiotropic, multiple effects containing NSAID. If the examiner asks you a question, it is piroxicam has multiple actions is what need to be basically remembered. That's good. Ravi is asking a very good question. Does diclofenac affects the platelet function? Not as much as aspirin. Aspirin is that king among chemicals which has an antiplatelet activity basically. Now doctor, a common side effect of NSAIDs, gastric irritation, no big deal. Then minimum amount of gastric irritation is by which drug? Meloxicam, piroxicam, meloxicam, all these are oxycam derivatives. But the one which is COX-2 specific is meloxicam. That's what we have already finished the review. Then lomoxicam is very unique because it has a very rapid onset of action and relatively a very short half-life is what need to be basically remembered. Now doctor, which anti-inflammatory drug is COX-2 inhibitor? Rofecoxib. If you know the concepts, MDS entrance exam is a cakewalk. For that matter, any entrance exam. Right, doctor? But that concept building stage you should not lose patience. You must perfectly sit and look. What is COX-2? What is COX-1? Where is COX-2? Where is COX-1? Where is thromboxane 2? Where is prostacyclin? Everything वो पक्का होना है दिमाग में, नहीं तो खाली मगिंग करने में भूल जाते. That's very important. Once you know those tricks of the trade, every topic will have 10 to 15 tricky questions. tricky aspects of the concept. You know the tricks of any exam you go, you are the topper. That is a simple secret. So which drug you can give safely to pregnant women? Paracetamol is very, very safe. Then which NSAID can be given safely in a patient taking anticoagulants? All others have antiplatelet action but not acetaminophen. You can give it safely. What is true about paracetamol? All these are true. Typically it is a deactivated metabolite of phenacetin. And analgesic effects are very similar to aspirin. It's an antipyretic also, but its anti-inflammation is negligible. These are all the previous MCQs in MDS entrance exam. Where is paracetamol contraindicated? If there is a hepatitis, it is contraindicated, and also it can lead to renal tubular necrosis, and it can lead to hypoglycemic coma also. The two other side effects of paracetamol is what need to be remembered. So what is the most common side effect of paracetamol in children? It can lead to hepatic necrosis. Is an important, this is the liver, where virtually all that hexagonal plate-like liver structure is gone, and what you find is only inflammatory cells. Studying the entire hepatocytic architecture, hepatic necrosis is what you are able to see here. Main pediatric side effect is what need to be basically remembered. Now doctor, regarding the various properties, what is correctly matched? Anti-inflammatory action is because of what? Aspirins, prostaglandin synthesis inhibition. That is a true statement. Okay? But antipyretic action not by blocking the pyrogens, right? B also can be indirectly correct, actually speaking. Maybe some error in the key. Aspirin acts on which part of the brain? Basically in the spinal cord. We have a pain gating system. Lot of people insult us every day. Will we remember all those insults? No. Why? Because for the pain to go to brain, the spinal cord will say, this pain cannot go, this pain can go. It is like a watchman. It's like a security officer. Who has to meet the minister, it will decide. Right? So that part of the spinal cord is called substantia gelatinosa, which is the place where aspirin basically acts. So it doesn't act on CNS for its pain killing ability. It acts on the periphery, is what need to be remembered. Now about the antipyretic action of the aspirin. These are all true. It reduces body temperature, but it does not lead to hypothermia in normal people. Normally if you take aspirin, you don't suddenly become cold like a ice box. But if you have high temperature, aspirin brings it down. Then it inhibits the prostaglandin synthesis in the CNS and reset the hypothalamic thermostat. That's the reason earlier question it required a correction of the options. And it does not affect the heat production, but it reduces the body temperature because it promotes the heat loss by causing cutaneous vasodilation. Then if you give aspirin, what are the pharmacokinetics of it? Basically orally administered aspirin, the type of aspirin tablet you are taking, you have a gastric protecting enteric coated tablets of aspirin available, you have sustained released formulation of aspirin available. So there is a reason how fine are the drug particles, what is the pH of the stomach, what is the gastric emptying time, they are all the determinants of how effective is going to be the orally taken aspirin. What is not a contraindication, rather an indication for aspirin? Rheumatoid arthritis is an indication, not a contraindication. And NSAIDs in fact are the first line of the therapy whenever you are having a patient who is having rheumatoid arthritis. Then aspirin therapy, how does it increase the bleeding time? It inhibits the COX enzymes, it decreases collagen synthesis, it decreases the thromboxane synthesis, etc., etc. They are all the true statements. Now doctor, I am going fast because we anyway finished all these concepts. Aspirin is used in the treatment of MI. Why do you do that? Because it diminishes thromboxane production. Thromboxane is produced by platelet or endothelium? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What is your answer? Good. So thromboxane production by the platelets is diminished by the aspirin is what need to be remembered. Why you avoid aspirin in child of influenza? Instead you want to give a acetaminophen? Because Reye's syndrome is a very important threat, which is fundamentally a acute fulminant hepatic encephalopathy which develops in a child who has been given aspirin when he is having febrile illness, influenza, is what need to be remembered. So there is a liver which is completely bombed like a German war unit. Hepatic encephalopathy rapidly develops in Reye's syndrome is what need to be remembered. So what is Reye's syndrome? Encephalopathy, liver dysfunction, fatty infiltration of the liver, all because of the aspirin, and acetaminophen is very safe is what need to be remembered. How is the bleeding time prolonged, doctor, if you give aspirin? Once more, in physiology we will discuss comfortably what is clotting time, bleeding time, etc., etc. Now it is not a therapeutic action of the aspirin. Therapeutic action of the aspirin. Aspirin is anti-inflammatory, analgesic and antiplatelet aggregation, but we don't use it for pyretic action. Actually pyretic action ke liye what is more important? It is basically antipyretic. Silly question. It is used as an antipyretic. Who said that it will create pyrexia? Too much, no? Examiners will also set such simple questions. Attack of bronchial asthma can be triggered by aspirin and ibuprofen. Any of them can lead to, actually speaking. Because, what is the reason? If the cyclooxygenase is inhibited by the cyclooxygenase inhibitors, all that arachidonic acid will divert towards leukotriene formation by the lipoxygenase. Leukotrienes are the bronchoconstrictors, hence asthma is precipitated. For treatment of acute gout, what do you use, doctor? Indomethacin. Indomethacin and ibuprofen, any of them can be actually used. Indomethacin is more commonly used. Right. Which NSAID will cause bone marrow depression and agranulocytosis? We reviewed, no? What is the favorite MCQ of examiner? What are the NSAIDs which have a blood dyscrasia producing effect? Phenylbutazone like drugs are the ones which have that agranulocytic effect. That brings us to the end of a marathon, doctor, which is called NSAIDs. That's good, doctor.